What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my banner review and builds guide for the Winter banner featuring Winter Fomortiis, duo Alear, female Shez, and also Hortensia. I'm also going to be going over the new skills that they've got and how you can use them on your units. So let us begin with Winter Fomortiis, and this time he is a red beast armor. He does have Icy Ravager as his preferred weapon. This does have minus and special cooldown, and it's sort of the turn and at sort of enemy phase, except for in Summoner Duels, because Summoner Duels doesn't really have the concept of player phase or enemy phase. He basically gets the Time Pulse 4 effect, so this is going to be enabling him to have Aegis be triggered with Shield Fighter and its special jump. So if you don't have Emblem Marth Ring, then this can help you. But still, ideally, you should be running him with Emblem Marth Ring because the Shield Fighter is going to be giving you the special jump against the Brave attack and the follow-up attack of the enemy. And if you don't have Marth Ring, then you're not going to be having Aegis ready and you may die. So having this Time Pulse 4 can be helpful if you're running him in Summoner Duels and you already have another armor with the Marth Ring. And in the combat, if the foe initiates or if the foe's HP is at or above 75%, then he's going to be inflicting the debuff on foe's attack and defense equal to 20% of his visible defense added with 6. So this is going to be around 16 to 17, and this is going to be helping him be a lot more bulky, and his weapons conditions don't really have any kind of HP threshold that is tied to him. So that means that even if he drops to 1 HP against like an AoE special, all of the effects of this weapon are still going to be active. He also gets true damage and flat damage reduction based on X, and X is going to be the total number of foes that have been defeated by your team in the current turn and the number of foes that have already acted in the current phase times 3 added with 10. So this can go up to max 19 true damage and 19 flat damage reduction, which is really good, but you're likely going to be getting attacked by the enemy who does the most damage first, and then you're going to be getting attacked by the other enemies. So it is not going to be always 19 flat damage reduction, but still this does have good synergy with the ending action that he has got in his slot A. And this can also enable him to snowball, which can make it really annoying for the enemies if they fail to kill him, which will be happening with Shield Fighter and Aegis. And he doesn't really have any kind of AoE damage reduction, so that is one of the weaknesses that he could try and abuse. And he does have Null Guard built in this weapon, so it does have good synergy trying to trigger the specials, but he already has the special jumping with Shield Fighter, and being a beast armor, he does get the distant counter effect out of it when he's transformed, and he's going to be transformed with his slot A skill, which is going to be functioning similar to a fortune skill and making it easier for him to transform. And if you use him in Aether Raids defense, then he's going to be transforming on turn 1 of enemy phase. So a lot of people are going to be putting him in Aether Raids defense because that's where you can get the most out of the ending action of this skill and be really annoying to your opponent. And he's going to be having the distant counter effect right from the get-go because of this. And if he's transformed or if the foe initiates combat, he gets additional minus 10 attack and defense debuff on the foe, and he also gets 80% damage reduction from foe's follow-up attacks, including the quad attack. So this is going to be completely pierceable damage reduction, but it really helps you against the quad attacking units like Ninja Lucina and Brave Bernie, because they are going to be having the 50% damage reduction piercing, and they are going to be able to survive and try and quad you, and that is one of the weaknesses of the Shield Fighter armors. So having this kind of damage reduction means that even if it gets halved, you're still going to be getting 40% damage reduction, and this can help you survive. And this is a reason why many armors, especially Farsave armors, used to run Deflect Missile as their secret seal, but Winter Fomortiis doesn't really need to do that as he has got this kind of damage reduction, which really helps him. And then he also gets 50% damage reduction piercing with this effect, so he can hit really hard with his weapon and also get rid of the damage reduction by half. And just like Mythic Fomortiis, he's going to be having the effect where if the enemy initiates combat and if they fail to kill Fomortiis, then after the combat, the closest 4 in 4 spaces of that target are going to be having their actions ended immediately. So this is getting countered by Firm Canticurb. So you're probably going to be facing that in Summoner Duels, but in Aether Raids offense, people are probably not going to be running firm counter curb on their offensive teams. So there, this can be really helpful and gives him a unique niche, similar to Winter Fomortiis, and having Shield Fighter just helps you survive a lot and having a lot of unpierceable damage reduction. So it goes well with his game plan, and you should be trying to make him even more bulky by giving him the Divine Nectar support of Hathrin or Breath of Life support, or even the Stone Terrain from Attuned Hector, for example. So all of that can help him patch up his weakness and be even more bulky so that he can survive and then end the action of the enemies. He does come with Shield Fighter, and he's the second armor after Duo Fjorm to have this coveted skill. This is an insane armor skill because it gives you the special jump before the foe's first attack, including the Brave Hits and the first follow-up attack. And it works only with the defensive specials, so you need to run Aegis or Pavis, and it also gives you additional 7 flat damage reduction, and each special trigger is calculated as a separate activation. So that's why you need Emblem Martyring, so that you can have Aegis and Pavis as a 1 cooldown special, and you get the most amount of unpierceable damage reduction out of it, and that is going to be the best for the survival. And you also have Escutcheon and Sacred Cowl being available, but they're not going to be giving you as much damage reduction even if you run them with Emblem Ike Ring. This is going to be the time where a lot of people are going to be trying to get Shield Fighter for their favorite armors, because this banner is sparkable by everyone, even if you don't have Fate Pass. So if you didn't get Duo Fjorm, then this is going to be your chance of getting the skill. And he also brings a new save skill in Attack Defense Briar Far Save. So the thing with Shield Fighter armors was that they were mainly focusing on trying to survive with the defensive special, and they were giving up a lot of offensive power unless they were, Duo Fjorm and they had the damage reflection. So Briar Far Save tries to fix that, and it is going to be having the 5 flat damage reduction on foes' first attacks, including the Brave Hits, and it also has the 40% damage reduction on your next attack. And keep in mind that this damage reflection is the limited one, similar to Counter Roar. It is not the damage reflection that gets stacked by the other damage reduction effects of your kit, like Hans, Echidna, or even, Duo Fjorm. So you're not going to be having that kind of ridiculous damage output, but still this does help you get some true damage, which does help with your firepower. And a unit like Fomortiis, who already has a lot of true damage, is going to be able to hit relatively hard despite having Shield Fighter and a defensive special. So Briar skills are going to be really helpful for many of the Shield Fighter armors, whereas the twin save skills are going to be useful if you're going to be having Armored Beacon, Armored Blaze, stuff like that, because it helps you survive against the double attacks of the enemies or if they have Desperation and stuff. So it helps you trigger the damage reduction of those specials twice, whereas Briar save is going to be helping you, have a bit more offensive power on a full defensive build. But again, you could try and have the skill even on those kinds of units depending on your use case, and any kind of Shield Fighter armor is going to be liking to have it. Nidhogre is only second to Duo Fjorm when it comes to her offensive power as an armor, even if she runs a defensive special and Shield Fighter. So if you're trying to have a lot of defensive capabilities and trying to survive, then this could be an option, and Hardy Bearing could be run as a Sacred Seal, and you could also run this on Marnie. Now, like I said, on many of the Armored Beacon, Armored Blaze units, you might want to have Twin Save, but it also helps you have the Briar Save if you're trying to kill the enemy with your retaliation and do a lot of damage. And Marnie is a really unique case because she has got Miracle in her weapon. So having Armored Beacon be a 2 cooldown special and being able to run Steady Breath is going to be enabling her to do a lot of damage by retaliating back with it. And now we do have options like Slick Fighter and Wily Fighter 4, which can be run on these kinds of armors, even if you are not going to be running Shield Fighter on them. And you can only run Aegis or Pavis in Arena because they don't really score as much. So Marnie gets another option, and Slick Fighter is a bit better for her than Wily Fighter 4 because it doesn't overlap with her weapon, which already has the double effect. And any kind of range armor can also try and run Briar Far Save so that they can retaliate back and try to kill the enemy. And it could be run with the Wily Fighter build. They don't really have access to Shield Fighter as it is and the defensive specials, but Briar is going to be increasing your offensive prowess with the damage reflection, and it also helps you defensively with that flat damage reduction. So overall, I do prefer the Briar save skills over the twin save skills when it comes to a slotted skill, honestly, and cannot wait to see the near save version of this. Overall, Winter Fomortiis is a really amazing far savior and a top tier armor unit with Shield Fighter and having the ending action with a slotted skill. He is still in the upper echelons of a armor unit right now, but there are a couple of armors that I do consider better than him, like Duo Fiorm, Attuned Hector, Nidhogre. I think all three of them are going to be a bit better when it comes to far saving and just having a lot of bulk and also offensive power. And especially Attuned Hector does overlap a bit with him, as he was also sparkable. So if you don't really have any kind of modern save armor, then Fomortiis is a really good one to try and spark. And if you want a shield fighter, this can also be helpful for the fodder. On a budget, you could run Winter Fomortiis with Hardy Bearing Sacred Seal. This does help you against the Desperation nukes, like Brave Bernie for example. And like I said, Emblem Marthring is going to be his best emblem because it is needed with a shield fighter build so that he could survive against the brave attacks and the follow-up attacks of the enemies. He could charge up the initial first hit with the Time Pulse 4 in his weapon, but this is going to be needed for the consistent survival. And even though Fomortiis can function as a really good far savior with his distant counter effect, you could even try and make him as a near savior depending on your needs. So you could have Wily Fighter Sacred Seal for its buff neutralization against the foes, and that can really help you in many of the matchups. And you could also try and give him the defense super boon, which he has got. And if you're going to be ascending an asset, I do like investing in his entire bulk with the resistance boon. So you could run him with Pavis, with Shield Fighter, and Twin Save could be run because we don't really have the near save variant of a Briar skill. So at least the twin skill is going to be giving you some healing, but it doesn't really work with the defensive specials for letting it trigger twice. But I'm just showing it for the optimization, and you can even give the version 3 of the skill. And then finally, if you're going to be plus and merging him, or if you want to use him as more of an Omni tank, then you could try and run him with Sturdy Beast. And again, Emblem Marthring is really helpful because he does have the Time Pulse 4 built in his weapon, so he's always going to be having Sturdy Beast active, which is really good. And you could also run Wily Fighter 4 as the slot B skill so that you could get the flat damage reduction and the buff neutralization. And this kind of build is going to be needed for Arena, as Pavis or Aegis with Shield Fighter are not going to be scoring high enough, and you need a high scoring special like Sturdy Beast. So you will have to switch up to a build like this if you want to function in Arena. And again, if you want to function as an Omni tank without Shield Fighter, and if you want to hear his special codes, then I guess you could try and run him with Sturdy Beast. Slick Fighter 4 is also something you could try and run on him, but I slightly prefer Wily Fighter 4 for its buff neutralization, especially when we're talking about a game mode like Arena where a lot of units are going to be having visible buffs. Duo Alear is going to be a blue infantry dragon this time, and he does have wintry art as his 11 might dual phase brave weapon. It does have -1 special cooldown, making Dragon's Roar into a 2 cooldown special. And if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, then he gives himself and the allies in 2 spaces the new Divinely Inspiring status. This status can give you extra stats depending on the number of Divinely Inspiring allies in 3 spaces times 3, and the max this could be is 2, so you basically get +6 to all of your stats, which is not bad for a status. And it also gives you the special cooldown -2 jump at max before foe's first attack. So this is before foe's first attack, similar to Lagoo's Friend, and this is going to be working well with specials like Dragon's Roar, Sturdy Beast, Armored Blaze, Armored Beacon, stuff like that. So the defensive special jump is really good for a lot of the tanks, and you also get healing depending on X multiplied by 4 per unit's hit in the combat. So you can basically heal up 8 HP per hit in the combat, which is extremely good for the self-sustain. So Divinely Inspiring is an amazing status, using which Alear himself is going to be a really good unit and can easily trigger his specials and hit really hard, but it also helps the other allies on your team. And this kind of status can be really helpful in Summoner Duels or even in Arena where you could try and use him. And for the in-combat effects, If he's within 3 spaces of an ally, then he's able to get +5 to all of his stats, and he inflicts penalty on all stats of the enemies depending on the distinct game title allies in 3 spaces times 3 added with 4. So max this could be -10 debuff. You also get true damage and flat damage reduction on foes' first attacks, including the brave hits. So you only get the flat damage reduction on the enemy's first hit. So ideally you do not want them to outspeed you and then double you, because you're not going to be getting any kind of flat damage reduction from this weapon on that double attack. So speed stacking with him is really important with base 46 speed that he has got, and the true damage and flat damage reduction that you get out of this is going to be depending on 5 multiplied by total number of distinct game title allies and the engaged allies. So max this would go is 15, so you get 15 true damage, which is really good with a dual phase brave weapon, and also 15 flat damage reduction on the first attack. And then he does have the slot A preferred skill of Legendary Male Alear in Emblem's Miracle, so this does have distant counter and you don't really need to run the Sacred Seal. And he also gets +9 to all of his stats, and also the 40% damage reduction on foes' first attacks, including the AoE special. So this is some AoE damage reduction that he has got, unlike his weapon, so this is extremely helpful. And the damage reduction here in the combat is going to be pierceable, so you gotta watch out for that. And if you've got 3 or more allies in 3 spaces of you, and if the enemy initiates combat, then you get the Miracle effect, and after triggering Miracle you heal up 99 HP. So this is once per map and this does not stack up. So this is a non-special Miracle, which means that you have to watch out for Fatal Smoke 4 and the Deep Wound status, which Aether can inflict. So that is going to be eating up your Miracle, and then you're not going to be able to survive. So Fatal Smoke 4 is slowly gaining its power again with Marnie's Miracle and now Duo Alear's Miracle. That is probably going to be common in Summoner Duels and also in Arena. And he also comes with a new Spiked Wall variant that we saw on Ninja Diamant. So this is the speed resistance variant, and this is the perfect scale for a lot of the units that cannot run Lagu's Friend, and they just want to get the true damage, and they also get the Null Guard. And not to mention, the Bulwark effect is so underrated and so useful for preventing the sniping of your backline units and your other allies. So I really like the Spiked Wall skill, and Alear makes fantastic use out of it. And he also has Even Wave Res D as a slotty skill, which Summer Female Alear had got, so this can basically give you the Scowl effect. So he already has a slotty skill occupying that slot, so you could get the Scowl out of your slot C, and this is a really good skill to have, and it can also be helpful on many of the other units. And because they are a duo unit, they do have a duo skill which is really powerful that cleanses any kind of penalty, debuffs or status effects on your unit and the allies in 3 spaces. So this is going to be extremely useful in Summoner Duels for the action economy, and you also get rid of any kind of penalty effects, which is really good. And you also grant yourself and the allies in 3 spaces the Dull Alt status, which ignores any kind of visible buffs of the enemies, and also the 50% damage reduction piercing status. So he doesn't really have the damage reduction piercing in his kit outside of the duo button, and this is the main way he's going to be getting it. But a lot of the times, because he has got a lot of good, true damage and the brave attacks, he's still going to be able to do fine against a lot of the pierceable damage reduction. So it is a bit unfortunate that he has got this locked in his duo skill, because you're not going to be able to easily use this in Aether Raids offense, but I guess they're wanting to use him in Arena and Summoner Duels, and this skill can be used at sort of every 3rd turn if it was already used. So again, good action economy for Summoner Duels, and this can help you stall out and just see what the enemy does with their action. And this also helps you a ton, just getting rid of any kind of debilitating negative status effects which may have been inflicted on you, and there are a lot of those status effects. So Duo Alear also has really good fodder, and many people are going to be foddering him for the Spiked Wall, and you could also get Dragon's Roar and Even Res Wave D. So a lot of the other Alears are going to be good users of it because of their brave weapon, and this kind of true damage, the Null Guard, is really helpful for them. And it also has good synergy with the special charges status of Legendary Female Alear with her Plet scale. So she comes to mind. and she's not going to be as tanky as a lot of the other Alears, but she does like this. And any kind of fast dragon can get the Spiked Wall and even res Wave D and run distant bonus doubler in their slot A and basically try and stack up these stats with Arcane Feldstone. And this way you get the visible buffs for the bonus doubler effect, and it does have good synergy with the Spiked Wall and the special charges of Arcane Feldstone. You could also run this on Legendary Male Alear, who already comes with the Bulwark skill, so he can easily inherit this, and he can also try and compress the roll with Barricade and stop any kind of warping. We also have Legendary Male Corrin, who does have a bit of a shaky playstyle, but I do think that he has gotten better over the time with Emblem Celica Ring, and that way he could just warp. And with the help of Spiked Wall, you're basically going to be able to trigger Dragon Fang shot twice in a single round of combat in his player phase. He does have Time Pulse 4 in his weapon, so you could try and use the Excel skill and be a bit more bulky and set up the water terrain. And you could also run this on any kind of other dragon with the Scowl in their slot A, and instead run a Ploy skill if they have usable resistance. So Kana could also try and use this with a Dragon's Roar build, because you're not going to be able to run Lagu's Friend with Arcane Feldstone and Dragon's Roar. So this is your way of getting some flat damage reduction while getting the true damage and the benefits of Null Guard. And you can also run this on Brave Tiki with her Weapon Refine. So she does have the special jumping, and with Time Pulse Echo you can also hit hard in the player phase, and with Dragon's Roar, Spiked Wall, you are going to be able to get some unpierceable damage reduction, and she already has the 50% damage reduction piercing in her weapon, so you don't really need the damage reduction piercing of Lagu's Friend that badly if you're going to be trying to run Dragon's Roar on her. Overall, Duo Alear is surprisingly good Omni Tank and Frontliner. He does seem like the kind of unit that's not going to be all that bulky, but he is with the flat damage reduction that he gets, and also with the insane amount of stats that he's able to get with the stat swing of his weapon and divinely inspiring effect that he has got as his status. And you also have consistent special triggers on him, so that can make him really deadly if you don't finish him off in a single hit, because he's going to be retaliating back with a Brave attack with a lot of true damage with a special that is going to be really hard for you to survive, especially if you don't have a lot of flat damage reduction yourself, or if you don't have Weapons Triangle advantage or something like that. So he does have Super Boon on his speed and resistance, and these are going to be the two boons that you should be picking. If you're going to be having a single boon on him, then plus speed Ivy should be prioritized. Like I said, you do not want to get doubled in any kind of way, because he only gets the flat damage reduction on the first hit. So that's why plus speed is going to be helping, and then plus resistance could be opted if you're going to be spending any kind of Ascended Floret on him. So I can definitely see him being used as a high scoring arena unit, and also in Summoner Duels, where he provides a lot of support while also being extremely bulky, while also being deadly with the dual phase breadth that he has got. On a budget, you could try and run Speed Resistance Finish 3 as the Sacred Seal. This is really nice for getting more speed and more resistance for the Scowl effect out of his Slotsy skill, and Dragon's Roar is perfect, and you could run Emblem Ike Ring for even more unpierceable damage reduction. And right now, Emblem Ike is something that he prefers. You could even run Emblem Sigurd Ring if you're trying to have more of a player phase, but again, keep in mind that the special jump is not given to you, before your first attack offensively. So he's mainly going to be trying to tank, and when it comes to tanking, Barricade is an extremely good option that you could run in the slot C. So it has got the warp blocking, and it also gets rid of any kind of debuffs on your defense and resistance, and also for your allies. So this is going to be really good when you're not going to be having the cleansing out of his duo button. And at higher investment, this is going to be the build that you could try and run, and I'm probably going to be seeing this in Summoner Duels for sure. But he's going to be needing some support when it comes to tanking the AoE specials, probably Stone Terrain or, Divine Nectar. And then finally in Arena, if you're going to be using him, then you'll have to use him with High Dragon Wall, mainly because it is the only 400 SP slot B skill, and we're just going to be running it for the scoring. It also has the warp blocking, but only against the ranged enemies, so it is not as good as Barricade. But if you want to have the highest possible score with them, then this could be run. And you could even run Distant Counter Dragon Sacred Seal, but that is a bit redundant. So you can still score extremely high, and he is one of the highest scoring units in the game. So if you're a big fan of him, then he's going to be helping you a ton in Arena, not only with the combat, with the support, but also with the BST that he has got with his duo skill effect. Winter Female Shez is a green dagger cavalier with red fist blades as her dagger, which is green actually, and it's an 8 might weapon with a dual phase brave effect. It also has minus on special cooldown, so stuff like lethality becomes a 3 cooldown special. And at start of turn, if her HP is at or above 25%, then she gives herself and the allies in 2 spaces the +6 attack and speed buff, the Insighted status, which can give you even more offenses when you're going to be initiating combat, and just in general more stats, and also the special charges effect, which gives you special charge +1 per attack. So this is going to be making it really easy for you to trigger your specials on your brave attack, and it also helps with the null guard that is built in full disarm. So these are really good effects, and even though her support is not as insane as Ninja Lucina, it is still something and can help your allies, but mainly it is going to be there for helping her as a nuke. And then in the combat, she's able to get extra stats depending on number of foes, and 3 rows and 3 columns centered on her, times 3 added with 5, and max this can be 14. She also gets true damage based on 20% of her speed, so this is really good for a nuke with a dual phase brave weapon. And you also get 7 flat damage reduction from foes first attacks, including the brave hits. So if you're going to be trying to survive with Pulse Smog and its guard and scowl effect, then this kind of 7 flat damage reduction can go a long way so that you could quad attack the enemy. Her Swift Slice has evolved into Swift Ice, and you're probably going to be familiar with this if you've used her Legendary or Summer version. So this is going to be active if she initiates combat or if she's within 2 spaces of an ally. This can give you +8 to all of your stats. It also has the 30% damage reduction from foes first attacks, including the brave hits, and it has the full null follow-up, which is amazing as a ranged cavalier. It also has 50% damage reduction piercing passively, so even if you don't run lethality, you're still going to be piercing some damage reduction of the enemy, which I really love, and it adds to her flexibility. And similar to the other Shez, she is going to be getting the effective against all weapon types damage if she initiates combat and if she meets the speed check. So it is going to be the +20 speed check against human infantry foes, and it is going to be the +5 speed check against everyone else. So against the infantry foes that are human, you're going to be needing to stack up a lot of speed, but against a lot of the far save tanks, you're not going to be needing as much of a speed check. And she already has really high speed at base 48 with the super boon, which you should always be trying to get because you want to meet the speed checks. And we have already seen Legendary Female Shez age a bit because of not being able to meet this kind of speed check. So stacking up the speed is really important. And then she brings a new skill in full disarm. So this is going to be inheritable to any kind of daggers except for the armor daggers, because you know everyone uses these 7 armor daggers offensively in Aether Raids offense. So this is going to be inflicting speed and defense debuff on the foe depending on the number of bonus status effects on your unit and the penalty status effects on the foe ×2 added with 4. So this can be max like -12 speed and defense debuff, which is extremely good with a brave weapon, and you also get the null guard effect. Now for the infantry units, it's not the biggest deal. They already have access to the tempo seal, the tempo skill, but for the cavaliers and flyers, this is a big deal because this means that they can function much better offensively, and the null guard out of this is going to be so helpful for a lot of the other brave dagger units. And it does have the disarm for trap effect, where you're going to be disabling the bolt traps and heavy traps, and you reduce the hex traps condition by 10 HP. So you still need to, stack up HP accordingly so that you can meet that kind of HP check to disable the hex traps. She also comes with Pulse Smog of Legendary Male Shez, which is going to be a Pulse Smoke, Guard Smoke, and Attack Smoke built in, and it also has the Scowl effect in the combat in your player phase only. It also has the guard effect, so this can help you a ton when it comes to surviving and then quad attacking and its pulse smoke effect is always helpful in this kind of meta where a lot of units have these kinds of way of pre-charging their specials. So she is going to be used a lot for her fodder, as you know, flying daggers and cavalry daggers don't really have many options. So Ninja Lyn is going to be one of the main units who takes advantage of her fodder, because she's got a pretty weapon and she does have trouble doing damage, so all of these defense debuffs helps her a lot. Then she stacks up the true damage with Slice of Sparrow, and the new Lookout Force is going to be giving you Canto 2 and also the distance swap, and she can run an Echo skill, so if you're trying to update her, then this is the way. And this could also be run on many of the infantry Brave Dagger units like Pern, any kind of giant shuriken unit with Flash Barrow, or you know, Ninja Heather. Pern does come to mind because he's the free-to-play unit and he has got special charges in his weapon, so he could easily try and run Pulse Smog and also take advantage of an attune skill like Time Pulse Echo. And Summer Claude is also a unit that many people have invested in, so nowadays Fallen Star at its vanilla version isn't really all that impressive, so you could run this instead, get the Null Guard, and if you give him a Pulse, then he's going to be triggering lethality on his double with the Emblem Marth Ring. Unfortunately, he has the worst Canto in his weapon, which is Canto Remaining Movement, so you may want to run Emblem Sigurd Ring or even Fortress Echo if you want to have at least some minimum Canto. Overall, Winter Female Shez is an amazing cavalry nuke with her effective damage, with her dual phase brave attack, and the fact that she's able to also have the Null Guard, and she can easily run Miracle and have these special charges help her charge it and then survive the enemy and then quad attack them. So the effective damage does help her a ton, and she can easily try and take out Duo Fjorm and even the other Far Saviors, but she is going to be having the weapon struggle disadvantage against some of the red Far Saviors that we've got, like Nidhogger for example, but still the effective damage is going to be going a long way for functioning with her as a nuke. Unfortunately, she doesn't have any kind of Canto in this kit, so you're pretty much forced to run Emblem Sigurd Ring or give her something like Lookout Force, for example, which is why they probably didn't give her this. But yeah, there is going to be a need of Canto. And on a budget, you could try and run Emblem Sigurd Ring. You're not going to be getting the +1 movement because you're a ranged cavalier, but you're still going to be getting the fixed Canto 2, which is really helpful, even on a budget. And you could just try and stack up your offenses with Attack Speed Catch or Blade Session. And again, plus speed IV is going to be really helpful to you. And the special, you could run Lethality, even though she already gets the 50% damage reduction piercing with her slot A. Still, Lethality is a strong special that you could trigger on your Brave attack with full Disarm and its Null Guard and the special charges of her weapon. And then you could get the Canto 2 out of Lookout Force, and this also helps you, swap in a way with the Shadow Shift effect. And even if you're going to be using her outside of Aether Raids offense, I still think that full Disarm is really good for her because there's no other skill that can give a ranged cavalier like her the Null Guard effect, which is extremely effective with the special charges of her weapon. And then finally, if you're going to be running her in something like Summoner Duels, then you could try and have Miracle. So again, the thought process is basically to use the special charges of her weapon and try and have Miracle help you survive, and then you quad attack the enemy. Assassin's Strike and Fatal Smoke 4 from Winter Inaka does help you. As you have seen, Miracle effects are going to be there with Duo Alear, Marnie and stuff. And Assassin's Strike also gives you the true damage, which can stack with her weapon. And because we're not running an offensive special, stacking up the true damage along with the effective damage of her slot A can be really good for having your damage output be good enough to kill things while still defensively using Miracle with Emblem Marth. And Fatal Smoke 4 can also help you against the healing of Breath of Life 4 that the enemies may try and get, but keep in mind that the Divine Nectar is completely unaffected by the Fatal Smoke effect, so you gotta watch out for that. Winter Hortensia is a cavalry healer this time, and she's got Snowman Staff as her preferred weapon. This does give her minus some special cooldown, making Holy Pressure into a 2 cooldown special, and this does have Dazzling Staff effect built in. She also has Aerial Maneuvers Warping, so that kind of 2-space warping is actually really helpful, even for a cavalier like her, which might seem a bit odd at first, The reason being is that she does get the gravity effect on herself with the Ice Lock, so this aerial maneuvers warping can help her get around even when she has the gravity inflicted on herself, so it's really helpful. And if a rally or movement assist is used by her, keep in mind this needs to be used by her, so if she does that, then she's going to be granting herself, the target ally, and the allies in 3 spaces the foe penalty doubler status, which is extremely helpful with all of the debuffs that she can do, and also the -1 special cooldown pulse, which can help you pre-charge your AoE specials and stuff, but this is going to be once per turn. So this weapon is extremely helpful for the support, and then for the in-combat effects, if she's within 3 spaces of an ally, then she's able to get extra attack and speed depending on 6 plus 20% of her visible speed. So this is going to be around 17 to 18. And she also gets the full non-follow-up effect, which for a cavalry healer, it's pretty nice to have. And she also gets true damage based on 20% of her speed, so she can still hit hard despite being a healer. And she has even more support with her Slotsy skill, Twinkling Anima. So at start of turn, if her HP is at or above 25%, then she's able to give herself and the allies in 3 spaces the +6 attack and speed buff, the Canto 1 status, which really helps in positioning, and also the null debuff status, and this can be really helpful for facing the other debuffing enemies, and she herself can debuff the closest foes and any foes in 3 spaces of that foe. So she is the first unit in the game to have this kind of 3-space splash range, and the reason why it is so significant is because the cleansing of Freyr, Attune Micaiah, and stuff like that, except for Ninja Saline, is all within 2 spaces. So her splash is more than the space of the cleansing, so this allows her to debuff even more foes, but we're probably going to be seeing the 3-space cleansing similar to what we have on Ninja Saline. So she's able to debuff -7 speed and resistance, and also inflict the Panic and the Discord status for even more debuffs. And for herself in the combat, if she's within 3 spaces of an ally, then she gets additional attack and speed +5, and also the Null Guard effect. And she also gets 50% damage reduction piercing, so she doesn't need to run Resonance with Wrathful Staff, Sacred Seal for getting the damage reduction piercing. So that is really good, and that allows her to at least offensively function much better than a lot of the other healers. And Hortensia triples down on her support with her Ice Lock plus assist, which any kind of healer can try and inherit, and this is basically a mix of Magic Shield plus with Brave Female Robin and her Ice Tile. So this skill is going to be treated as a rally assist, which means that it is going to be activating her weapon, and upon the use, you're going to be able to heal up the HP based on 40% of units attack, and this is going to be minimum 6 HP. And keep in mind that this kind of healing is 2-space healing, like the Physic staff, so that kind of range is really good for the healing compared to Magic Shield Plus, which needs you to be adjacent to your ally. So the range of this is extremely effective, and you also give the +6 defense and resistance buff to that target ally. And similar to the pattern of Brave Female Robin, you set up the Divine Vein Ice Tiles, and this helps you defensively just slow down the pace of the match, and it can also help you with a lot of different playstyles, as we have seen with Brave Female Robin. And if this assist is used turn 2 onwards, then it gives you another action with your healer similar to Magic Shield Plus, and you also inflict the gravity on yourself and the pair up cohort. So it does have the cost, but still she does have the warping that can enable you to move around, and the effects that are triggered after the 2nd turn are not going to be activating again for 2 turns after triggering, and this skill is not going to be charging up your specials obviously. So Ice Lock Plus is just incredible for any kind of healer, but there are some healers that make really good use out of it, and amazingly Rearmed Hortensia is one of them. So she is one of those healers that can give you a lot of support while also running Soaring Echo in her attune slot. So she can enable the warping, and then Dazzling Shift can give you similar warping, which can help you move around. So it is also an option, and unfortunately flying healers don't have a lot of options. At least they have it a bit more than the cavalry healers. So she can run Attack Speed Mastery to get the better Canto out of it. Ice Lock is really good for the flying healers, and then Mythic Loki is also one of those unique healers with a lot of support with her Slotsy, and she is also able to function in Summoner Duel, so that's where you could try and use her. And Aerobatics is a Sacred Seal that can also be used for the warping. And then finally, we do have Elamine, who's going to be getting a Remix and Refine in March of 2025. So she could be a really good unit for hit and run, or even, defensively helping you in Aether Raids offense. So there she could definitely have potential with this assist. And until she gets a remix, you could run Soaring Guidance as her Slotsy skill and run Attack with Echo so that she can warp. Overall, Winter Hortensia is an amazing support healer and easily one of the best supportive healers. She might not be the best unit immediately out of this banner, but I do think that she's going to be aging the best because of all of the support that she can provide, and she's also not that bad offensively. It's just that cavalry healers do not have a lot of options for inheritance, so you are pretty much stuck with her base kit and what she comes with it. So you can prioritize the plus speed IV, and you could try and run Attack Speed Catch or Blade Session Sacred Seal. You also have the option of running Emblem Marth with Holy Pressure, so that every turn after you use her assist, you're going to be able to pre-charge Holy Pressure, and then you can hit hard with it and even trigger it on your double because of the Null Guard that she has got. And like I said, she doesn't need Resonance all that badly because she already has damage reduction piercing, so you could just keep Poetic Justice, and it also gives you a bit of true damage. And because cavalry healers have negative options, if you want to change up her base kit, then I guess you could go with Glitter of Light and Firestorm Boost. Firestorm Boost gives you guard, which I guess could be helpful, but it's not that high value of an effect. So unfortunately, not a lot of options for Cavaliers, but I really hope that changes in the future. I want to thank all of my team members for their constant support, and you can click the link on the screen right now to check out my review of Winter Hortensia, and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because I wish YouTube sub boxes were about as amazing as Fomortiis on a Winter banner. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.